There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers. A dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends. A place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view. But when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Good evening and welcome to another Saturday edition of Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, sitting across the board from me, looking effervescent in his Vikings jersey, Mr. Tim Dennis. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening. I got to celebrate early, you know.
Yes, that your team is still on the planet and hasn't been sucked into the abyss.
Who's your team?
I know,
Listen
I'm
here.
selling out.
Who's the guy who had season tickets for 4 or 5 years?
6 years.
6 years.
I love the Vikes. I'm just very saddened by their missteps the last two games.
Well, you know, it's a new day tomorrow. Gus
Yes, it
Frerotte, new quarterback.
New quarterback.
Well,
that's like buying a 77 Gremlin and saying it's a new car.
He's as new as the T-Rex is.
Yes, that is true. Hey, we got some exciting news, Timothy.
What's that?
We have a Halloween party, our first ever Halloween bash.
Yeah, we do.
We're about half sold out on it right now for the rooms. And what you can do is go to darknessevents.com. Join the team from Darkness Radio. Tim and I will be out there. The lovely Nicole Remini from our movie reviews. Susan Cummins, our book reviewer. Our national correspondent, Bree Sanders, will be in-house. And believe it or not, all the way back from London, England, Tim, we are teleporting Adrian Lee back into our sites. He's going to be here with us. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to go out. Not only are we going to have a little Halloween party, but we're going to be at the very haunted Palmer Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. The party that you can be a part of, if you book, there's only 17 rooms available in the hotel. If you're first one of the group in there, you get to ghost hunt with us. You get to stay in the hotel. You get to hang out for the party and just have a great time with all of us that are part of Darkness Radio. So I hope that you'll check it out. Go to darknessevents.com. If you don't want to be part of the ghost hunt, you can just come in. There's smaller packages available where you can just come in and party and hang out for the evening. And we do hope you'll check it out and be a part of the first ever Darkness Radio Paranormal Halloween Getaway. So that should be a lot of fun. Tim, we got to start looking for costumes.
I already got it.
What are you going to be?
I think I'm going to be a pimp.
You? Let's step out of character a little bit. This is supposed to be a costume.
Hey, look at you.
Oh, that's it, girl.
Flattering me.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. There's a lot of good information. Now, Tim, we had a fun Wednesday.
Yeah, we did.
We got to go out, and we had a fun time with our good friend, Nicole Remini. And we went out and we saw the movie premiere, the brand new movie, Ghost Town, which is a comedy starring Ricky Gervais from the original The Office. He's also on Extras. He was, I don't know what else. He's been in like tons of different things now. Hilarious guy. Greg Kinnear, Téa Leone is in the movie as well. Mm-hmm. And we got a chance to be at the premiere party for it and watch the movie. And let's bring Nicole online. Nicole, are you with us?
Hi, guys.
Hey, good looking. So,
how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Now you're going to be coming out to the Halloween party, too. I keep telling everybody that, so you're not going to stiff us, right?
No, I'm totally coming. My mom's coming, too.
Her mom's coming. Awesome.
From L.A.
Tim.
I got a date?
She's introducing you to her mom.
Hey,
this is very exciting.
Okay, I just have to give you a hard time for just a second. You're making fun of the Vikings, yet what color car?
Oh, it sounds like we've lost Nicole.
Cell phone breaking
that's
up.
Horrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
She's making fun of my purple PT Cruiser, Tim. It's just not right.
It is.
I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
Yes. I'm just playing around. So, Nicole, I don't know about you. I'm going to go out on a limb. I will honestly say that was probably one of the funniest movies I've seen in the last 5 years. It wasn't just dumb funny. It was a really well-done movie.
It was a very well-done movie. I loved the way Ricky and Greg Kinnear kind of did their thing. It's a love story. It's not. There's nothing scary about it. So this is definitely something that we wouldn't usually cover. But being that we did premiere the movie, I think it was absolutely hilarious. And that Kristen Wiig from Saturday Night Live, the doctor,
yes,
hilarious.
Well, for people that aren't familiar too, the basic premise of this movie is Ricky Gervais is kind of this self-centered,
he's a jerk,
alienated dentist, right? And he has a near-death experience and comes back and he's able to speak and see the dead.
That's the funny part, because he doesn't know he has a near-death experience. So
Right.
that's the funny part, because he goes in to get a man check,
Yes.
comes out, and he can all of a sudden, like, all these dead people need him. And being that he hates people in general, that's what makes it hilarious, that they all need him to do something for them. And he has absolutely no interest whatsoever. So he's not only a jerk to the living, he's a jerk to the dead. And just the way Greg kind of brings him to light is just hilarious. I think every piece of it, it's, a really nice romantic comedy. I think everybody would love it. It would be a great family flick if it didn't have cursing in it, but it does have cursing in it. Remember his dentist-to-dentist scene?
Oh, yeah, that was only one time. These kids are worse talk on the
my
corner.
kid hearing that.
Yeah, that's true.
I got a 4-year-old nephew who swears more than that.
That's true. Well, now, Tim, how about you? Now, this was, we got to go out to this premiere. What did you think of the movie overall?
I liked it.
You're asking Tim or me?
Yeah, Tim. Let's hear Tim's theory.
We changed your name to Tim, Nicole.
It went for a second, so.
I think not only is it a smart comedy, and everything from the setup to the punchline is smart. There's not a lot of profanity. There's not a lot of innuendo or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not sex-oriented.
But the fact that they also treat the paranormal with a little bit of dignity, a little bit of respect. There's not, and this is going to sound weird, and I know for the general listening audience for 100.3, they're going to go, oh boy, belly rubber. But it was treated rather well, and there is some seriousness to the paranormal. I mean, people sometimes take it lightly or take it as a joke, or they make little bits of fun about it. But the fact of the matter is we're all going to die, and I think we all have that fear of death. And
wow, thanks for bringing the show down, Tim.
Yes, we all die, Tim, but it's only once, and it's usually at the end of our life, which is one of my favorite lines from the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth seeing. It's probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. He created The Office, and he's on that show Extras on HBO, which I absolutely love. His timing is perfect. He was a great leading man.
Yeah, he was, actually.
He did a really great job.
You know what? It kind of harkened back to like a Humphrey Bogart-looking leading man. Not necessarily the most striking-looking gentleman in the world, but he played the part very well. So I think it was a great movie, and it does fit into our show because it's got the paranormal slant. And I don't want to give it away, but Ricky Gervais comes to a conclusion about what ghosts are and why they're really here, and it's kind of an interesting take on it. And I don't know if you picked up on that, Tim, but I thought that was a good take, and just watch it for that alone, because it'll really make you kind of, for those of you that are paranormal investigators, maybe it'll make you rethink why ghosts are here and what their real purpose is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you watch the TV show The Ghost Whisperer, it's very Ghost Whisperish with a comedy twist.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Speaking of Ghost Whisperer, I want to drop this news, too. I just was reading in my newest Entertainment Weekly magazine. Tim, there's hints, I guess, that they broke on the magazine a week ago. They're going to kill Melinda's husband this season.
Come on.
No, that's what they said. It said Jim will not last the whole season.
Well, if you've really watched the show, I TiVo it because I have to watch it. I absolutely love it. He wants kids. She doesn't want kids. He wants to move out of there. She can't move out of there. So they've been creating quite the friction between the two of them.
Yeah, what you said, because that's what I actually like, is the fact that they get along. I love the show Medium, but I can't stand how week after week the husband still questions the wife when she, is curing, solving all these cases week after week and always knows what's going on. And each week he's like, "Oh, come on, Allison." What do I need to do? Well, we got a few minutes here. I know that we sent you into another horror genre movie that I wanted you to talk about tonight. You did a review for us on The Orphanage. And we'll go back into scary.
A listener actually sent that in, which thank you very much. I have to say this, though. If listeners are going to send me suggestions for movies, please, with my ADD, don't send me movies that have subtitles. I have to be able to do two things at once, and to have to sit and watch a movie, be forced to watch the whole thing, that's really hard for me. But I will tell you this.
Wait a minute, Nicole. Did you just admit that to review a movie you don't watch the whole thing?
Well, you know what? I watch it, but I'll break out and I'll start doing my review.
Right.
But if I have to actually pay attention to I'll take key points out. But if I have to be reading and write, I can't do that.
No, I got you.
I can't read and write at the same time.
So it's a foreign movie. it's directed by what's his name? Guillermo.
Del Toro.
Yeah, the guy that did the Hellboy movies.
Yes.
Now, is this actually a horror movie, or is it more suspense?
I would say it's more suspense. The case did say it was a terrifying suspense horror. I did not find that to be true. I did think that it was very Pan's Labyrinth, without the creepy monsters meets Peter Pan. Mm-hmm. And I think it was done incredibly well. The acting was amazing. Again, it's like set in Spain, and there's this woman, Laura, who takes over this orphanage that she was an orphan in as a child. And she's turning this mansion into a home for the, mentally handicapped children. And right away it goes into the son starts, he has imaginary friends, and those imaginary friends start playing games and things start to go missing in the house. And it gets a little creepy with the noises and who's laying next to Laura when she's sleeping. She's talking to her husband, thinks it's him, it's not. So they do set up some really great scenes, but overall it's truly the acting that makes this movie unbelievable. I couldn't pronounce her name if I even tried. It's like Baleen Ruda. She's absolutely amazing. I think it's more of the kids that make it creepy because there's a kid with a scarecrow thing on his face, and that is probably the creepiest part of the movie. But you end up falling in love with this movie to the point where, again, for a horror movie, you need Kleenex at the end of it. And that's kind of where the Peter Pan reference comes in. And I really don't want to give it away, but the husband ends up leaving. The kid goes missing for 19 months. He has AIDS and he needs his medicine, and so she decides to stay in the house and look for the boy, and that's when all the creepiness kind of happens. But it's set up so well that you're not freaked out about it. It's like you kind of you expect every creepy moment to happen. But I don't know what it is about the Spanish, because I watched another one of his movies today, and again, absolutely beautifully filmed.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Nicole. We'll have those up on our website. You can go to darknessradio.com, click on the movie and book review section, and you'll be able to find the reviews up there that Nicole has talked about tonight's show in the last few weeks. You can read her reviews and see her stars. Now, what would you give, a 1 out of 5, what are you going to give to Ghost Town?
I'm going to give Ghost Town a 5, and I'm also going to give Orphanage a 5.
Great. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Nicole.
I really love them. All right, you guys, have a great show, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Now, I do want to make a quick mention, of course, stay tuned, because at the 10 o'clock hour, our second hour in the show, we're going to be talking to R. Gary Patterson, and he is the author of Take a Walk on the Dark Side, Rock and Roll's Myths, Legends, and Curses. We're going to be talking about a lot of really weird stuff that's been involved in rock and roll history, down to the Crossroads story, and get some background on that. We've got coming on the line next with us, so I want to bring him on and get a quick story or two out before we have to take our first break. We, of course, have international news correspondent Mr. Adrian Lee. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Dave. Hello, America. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks a lot for waking up again in the middle of the night to spend your time with us here.
Well, I've actually not had to wake up. I haven't gone to bed yet, actually.
Really? What are you doing at this time of morning?
Well, normally I have to talk to you. I have to get myself up because it's 3:18 in the morning. But today, I think you'll be quite jealous. I actually went on an investigation to do some research, and I went to the most haunted village in Britain, according to many reports, a place called Pluckley in Kent, and I spent the day there, so hopefully I'll be doing some investigations there very shortly. But I had a really good day out. So I haven't actually gone to bed yet today. I'll be doing that when I've finished with you, I suspect.
Good deal. Well, why don't we do this? We've got you introduced. We know what's coming up news-wise. We're going to take our first break of the hour. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Welcome back to The Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, here on Darkness Radio every Saturday and Sunday night from 9 p.m. to midnight. Along with me, my co-host and conspirator in darkness-osity. I don't know. I got nothing, Tim.
I'm the keeper of the clubhouse.
The keeper of the clubhouse, yeah. Mr. Tim Dennis. We got a good show tonight, Tim. We're big into this. Now, you also have a friend, Sean Sellers, who does a lot of talking on the Crossroads, right?
Yep, absolutely. He's from Southern Paranormal Research, and he actually does a presentation on the Crossroads and how different musicians involved either with the song Crossroads, either performing it live or recording it, have had some sort of fate befall them.
We'll have to talk to Mr. Patterson about that tonight, see what he can tell us, and then maybe we'll have Sean on as a follow-up in a month or so and flesh it out more, because I know he's got a lot more stories to tell us, Mr. Patterson. But, hey, one other quick announcement, and we'll get right back into talking to our international correspondent, Adrian Lee, of course. We've got something exciting coming up on Monday, September 29th, Tim.
What's that?
Dave Schrader, Paranormal State.
Oh, yeah.
A&E. So make sure you guys tune in. It's A&E. I've the cast of Paranormal State, Ryan, Katrina, Heather, Sergi, Elfie. I take them out of their normal environment of ghost hunting, and we go out looking for UFOs. And I think people are going to really enjoy what they've seen. I'll say that at UNIVCon, I just came back from last weekend. Ryan said it's by far one of his favorite episodes that they've filmed. And it's really turning out decent. So I hope you guys will all check it out. Support Dave on Darkness Radio here as I appear on Paranormal State along with Chad Kalick and the rest of the team. That's Monday, September 29th. Check it out on your listings, local listings for A&E. We're going to go back to our international correspondent and man about town, Mr. Adrian Lee. All right, Adrian, what have we got going, and what part of the world are you going to take us to tonight?
Fantastic. Right, let's get stuck in. As always, I'll start with some quirky and bizarre stories.
Please.
So I'm going to be starting in Africa tonight.
Okay.
A minister in the Democratic Republic of Congo has ordered a Kinshasa jail to release a dozen goats, which he said were being held there illegally. The Deputy Justice Minister said he found the goats just in time during a routine jail visit. The beasts were due to appear in court charged with being sold illegally by the roadside. Now, I don't know what it's like in America, but if anything's being sold illegally by the roadside in Britain, it's not normally goats. You don't often hear people in Britain say, I'm just going to go and score some goats. Now, it's not like we have a sort of systematic problem with delinquent goats roaming the streets causing trouble at night, saying they're bored and have anything to do. So I feel a bit sorry for them. The minister said that many police had serious gaps in their knowledge and that they would be sent for retraining. During a routine visit to the prison, he was astonished to discover not only humans, but a herd of goats crammed into a prison cell in the capital. What's even more funny is that an African analyst, Mary Harper, actually said that given the grim state of prisons in the Congo, the goats would doubtlessly be relieved about being spared a trial. And I just thought it might be funny that upon their release, they might kind of hit the town, have a few drinks, a slap-up meal, and maybe spend the night ending up in a sleazy downtown petting zoo. I mean, that's obviously a possibility. I was also thinking that they might have arranged an escape committee while they was in there. And maybe during roll call, one of them had made a model of a goat and kind of brought it out to take a register whilst they were digging their way out.
Very good.
But that's goats being held illegally in Africa this week.
Wow. Tim, don't you hate it when you see good farm animals going bad?
Well, yeah.
Oh,
maybe
sick.
Yes, maybe no.
You are twisted.
Maybe I'm partial to it.
Where are we going next in the world, Mr. Lee?
You could put them on a stick and eat them.
Yeah, at the state fair, yeah. So we might next year. Bad goats on a stick.
Oh,
ooh, that sounds tempting.
Yes.
And dip them in chocolate too.
Well, why not?
Deep fry them.
Deep fry them and dip them in chocolate.
Smart. I've got quite a nice story here. A French listener actually sent me this story from France this week. And
wait, a French listener from France?
That's where French listeners come from, sir. Yes,
Thank you.
That is the case. This is keeping up with our theme of animals and law and order. This is what's believed to be a world first here, that an investigative magistrate has invited a dog to take the stand as a witness. Scooby the dog will give evidence, as he is believed to have been the only witness of a 59-year-old owner of his that was found hanging from the ceiling of a Paris flat. Police believe the death was a suicide, but a family crime murder, and the only witness to see the alleged crime is actually the dog. So it's hoped that Scooby can collar the potential perpetrator, having already played a leading role during the preliminary court hearings in this Paris suburb. I mean, I'm just wondering, have they considered the fact that the dog may have actually done the murder? I don't know if this has been considered yet. The bones might have been too small, the walks were too short, and the final straw was he kept bringing the ball back and she kept throwing it away again.
It's bound to drive a dog mad. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, apparently he's said to have hounded a suspect, barking furiously, after being taken out of the kennel and into the witness box by a vet. But, you could easily implicate a suspect just by planting bacon in his pockets at this stage. So I'm not sure that's going to go down in a court of law. Planting
bacon? Tim carries it around with him all the time.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
I thought that was his aftershave. I just wondered if the dog could actually be bought. I wonder if he could be bought with a string of high quality bones, a top of the range collar, and maybe a night with a freshly clipped blonde Labrador.
You think that's the way that the mob's going to get to him?
It's going to pull up with a Labrador in the boot.
Excellent.
But the trouble is as well, this also made me laugh, that the victim died 2.5 years ago, And in all seriousness, the barrister said this is 17 dog years ago. How's an animal supposed to remember what happened 17 years
Oh, my God.
I mean, no one's thought of that, have they?
I love the rationale. That's true.
So that's happening in Paris this week. So as always, I like to thank our listeners in France for sending me that.
So Africa's got jailed goats. In France, we've got Scooby the dog who's given testimony. And in China, they're trying to teach their poodle to drive a car, Tim. The world's going crazy.
Let's go into the dogs.
To hell in a handbasket. Where are we going next, Mr. Lee?
Say, couldn't we train a monkey up to do the bald?
Oh, no. That's, wow.
Are you calling me a monkey, mister?
Well, Tim, you used to refer to yourself as board monkey, so it is only fair.
It takes no more than a monkey to run a board, actually.
That is true.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I thought I'd venture back into Britain now. This is quite a nice story, that on Monday, a student tried to pay his way at university by actually selling his soul on the internet. Gareth Ellis, a former student at St John's Dean's College, put one untarnished human soul up for sale on the internet auction site eBay. The 18-year-old put a reserve price of £600 on the item and claimed that he may well sell it because he's not actually had much use for it. He was hoping to raise enough money to finance his way through Goldsmiths College, University, where he hopes to be studying this month. I mean, they actually got an expert. They actually had a church minister comment on this. The Reverend Tim Hanson from Christchurch said that he was not sure that selling a soul on eBay was actually possible. I mean, I'm glad he's an expert.
Anything's possible. You know, you can buy a ghost in a bottle.
A ghost in a bottle?
Yeah, they sold a ghost in a bottle, and they sold Elvis on toast, I think, wasn't it, Tim? Or was it Jesus Christ that appeared on a piece of toast?
Elvis on toast is my favorite dish, by the way.
Yes, exactly. So what did this... He didn't think you could actually sell it online, huh?
Well, that's what the experts say. I just wonder if you could actually buy a soul to replace one you've already sold. I mean, is that a possibility?
Wow, so it's kind of like trading cards. It's the new Pokemon.
I'm sure you've sold your soul on a couple of weekends. I'm wondering if you could put in a bid and get one back.
I don't know if... I've sold it so many times, but it keeps coming back returned as defective, Adrian.
Well, I mean, the alternative is you could just go to Souls R Us or Soul Hut and buy one there.
If you sell it...
We Are Souls. Oh, am I allowed to say that on American radio?
No, you're certainly allowed. Now, did he end up selling it? Did it go, or did they pull it off?
I believe he's actually sold it. I think it's the auction finished a day or two ago, so I'll actually research that and find out what he got for it in the end.
Damn.
But quite an interesting thing to sell. I mean, if he actually sold that for quite a large sum of money, I mean, that's not, why can't other people get on there? I just wonder if it was easier for the devil to actually, instead of going into some kind of negotiation, actually just go on eBay now and get what he needs and not have to bother anybody.
No, because even the devil gets sniped at the last minute on eBay, and some jerk like Tim pops in there and buys it at the last second bid. It's just the way the game is played, Adrian.
Fair enough. I'm glad that we're sticking with tradition on those.
Exactly. Where are we off to now?
We're going to wing our way on a very short trip across the English Channel to Holland. A Dutch man's funeral had to be cancelled at the last minute because the grave diggers were actually on a training course. Grieving relatives of the dead man were distraught after the decision on the day of the funeral in this city in Swole, and actually said that this couldn't take place. I mean, bearing in mind this is Holland, I wonder if they could just go Dutch and actually share a hole. That might be a possibility. The officials had a change of heart and actually said the funeral could actually go ahead as planned if the family paid extra. And then you're thinking, if only they'd have brought a spade with them,
I wonder, Tim, maybe that's the way we do it. Maybe that's our side company. We open up a cemetery. Mm-hmm. It's a dig-your-own-plot cemetery.
I like it.
You have the funeral, just pick a spot, and we leave some shovels for you, and you go to town. What do you think?
So wait, you're dead and you have to dig your own grave?
No, the family members. It's not like they have anything better to do.
So we want Grandma, 98 years old, out there digging a ditch.
Well, we'll have a special 2-for-1 then.
All right.
That sounds good. I was thinking, though, that if they went on strike, you could have a backlog where there's just rows of coffins laid on the grass ready to go, and you could do the 110-metre hurdles and kind of reenact the Olympics in the comfort of your own graveyard there.
Cemetery Olympics? Yes, very nice.
Yeah. You could do a relay with a baton as a thigh bone. That might be a possibility.
You'd really have to be careful, though, when you say that your, that last run was killing you. Oh,
yeah, it was murder.
It was murder. Tim's in there wincing at every bad pun, Adrian. I want you to know that.
Hey, I've spent all of 10 minutes writing this material. How can you say that?
Oh, and it shows every minute of it, my friend. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. You're listening to Darkness Radio. Live here every Saturday and Sunday night. We're here with you to share all the news of the strange and weird and delve into different aspects of the paranormal, from ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, the Bermuda Triangle, and beyond. Make sure to check out our show tomorrow night. Tim, we're going to be talking about these guys who take Polaroid photographs and messages are scrawled on them in Polaroid film. It's really a strange little phenomena. It's amazing. It was actually featured on Sightings a few years back. Mm-hmm. Our buddy and Tech Talk technician Bill Murphy turned us on to the story. Speaking of which, Bill Murphy's going to be joining us tomorrow in the last segment of the first hour, talking about a new technology. It's I'm going to let him talk about it, but it's IR strobe effects that they think may make ghosts more visible.
Or make them have seizures.
Yes, there is that too. Well, if they collapse to the ground having a seizure, it's easier to videotape them.
It is.
Yes, see how it all works? All right, we're going to go back to our international correspondent, Adrian Lee. And I do want to mention, too, Tim, I had the opportunity to meet the lovely and talented Allison Smith last week, the skeptic. She is, we're actually in talks with her to figure out if we can have her come on once a month or so and do a spot talking about the skeptical side of the paranormal and having her break things down. Maybe I'll even have her do a review of the episode of Paranormal State and tell her have her chime in on what her thoughts are.
If she's too skeptical, she may not believe that radio waves exist, and therefore a signal doesn't go out, and therefore she didn't have to do this segment.
That is true. I don't know. She's good. I think she'll lend some interesting dialogue to the show for sure. So keep checking. Hopefully we'll have Allison Smith joining us here in the future. Right now, though, going back to balmy London, England area, Mr. Dennis, we're going to go back to Mr. Adrian Lee. Adrian.
Yes.
All right. We got a quick short break on us there in that last bit. So let's see. Where are we off to next in the world?
You spoke with Brie on Sunday briefly about the idea of getting insurance against Yeti attacks. And this was currently in the news in England this week. But climbers on an Everest expedition have insured themselves against Yeti attacks. Expedition leader Nigel Gifford decided to take out the insurance after spotting huge footprints all around his Tibetan camp at 19,000 feet above sea level. He is convinced that Yetis exist and doesn't want to take any chances. So the insurance for Gifford's group covers them for Yeti attack, resulting in accidental death and permanent disability to the tune of £5 million.
Wow.
He says that there's not much else that could be at that altitude. He said there are yaks, but generally they're not very aggressive. I mean, I was wondering if he considered that there might be vigilante mountain goats from a previous story hanging around on street corners, perhaps.
The African mountain goats had to go somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some of them can be quite dangerous when they're agitated.
You know, is there any way to find out, Adrian, that insurance company that actually insures them for Yeti attack? I'd love to talk to a company that actually would insure that and see what it would take.
I can do that for you. They're actually based in Wales in the southwest of England, so I can actually give you the number and you can
that'd be great.
Track them down. I can certainly do that for you.
Please, yeah, I'd love to check that out because I'd love, Tim, I'd like to check in. I wonder if we could purchase insurance for ghost hunting, that in the event of our death or untimely demise by the hands of a spirit, would we be covered?
My guess is no.
Well,
if they're willing to protect you against Yeti attack.
Well, my guess would be yes, because if you give anyone a large enough sum of money, they'll take any insurance on that, wouldn't they, do you think?
But how do you prove that a ghost actually caused your demise?
That's not up to them to prove, though. It's up to the corpse's family then to prove, see? But I wonder if they would insure. That's interesting stuff. All right, so you've got a Bigfoot insurance policy going, and where else are we going to talk about?
Well, on a similar theme, there was actually a really good Bigfoot sighting reported in Canada this week. A woman reported a Sasquatch sighting, and she made the report 29 days after the sighting simply because she didn't know who she could tell, and she was concerned that no one would believe her. But since the incident, one of the woman's friends has reported a similar sighting in Morristown, and over the summer there have been several sightings near Campbell River and Port Renfrew on the Vancouver Island. This woman has agreed to talk to the press, but under the condition of anonymity. But her statement reads that at 5:45 a.m. on the morning in question, the woman heard her dogs barking at the door, and when she went down to investigate, she saw that someone or something was rattling the door handle, and knowing that her son was not due back from a late shift for more than a couple of hours, she began to panic. She eventually opened the door, and the dogs were out like a shot, apparently, sniffing out and generally wandering around the property. And then she said she looked to the other side of the house, and she actually saw a creature walking on two legs. And her statement reads that it was huge, it had long hair. She said it wasn't like fur, but it was like the kind of hair you might see on an ox, or a kind of a reddish-brown fur that you might get on a cow, for instance. And it moved so fast, but by the time she opened the door, it had run from the porch to the other side of the property. And then she said once outside, the dogs pursued the creature, and it continued along a dried-up ravine and disappeared into a forest area. And apparently the oldest of the dogs didn't actually return for 3 hours. And she was worried about what she should do. I mean, she was looking for a dog. She wasn't sure whether she should report it or not, but basically it was in her house, and she saw it run back into the forest. And then some investigators then went out the following day after she came out with this story, and they'd actually seen some tracks, and they've actually seen where the grass had laid down along the path where this particular creature had run from. So that was quite an interesting story for me. She's actually got quite a good statement there, I think.
Wow, so it was actually in her house. Boy, that's frightening.
Yeah, it was probably looking for some porridge, as the story goes.
Yeah, but that was Little Red Riding, or Goldilocks, not...
you've muddled up your stories there.
Red Dreadlocks, yeah, exactly. Weird. All right, where are we off to next?
Well, again, you spoke... I wanted to touch on this story again. You spoke last week about the incident in Mexico of the flying witches.
Yes.
And even though this was a couple of years ago, I think it's quite an interesting story, and we did speak last week, so I thought I'd put a bit more depth on that for you, if that's okay.
Please do.
But this was in May 2006, the city of Nuevo Leon in Mexico became famous due to reports that had started circulating in the Mexican press about a strange UFO captured on video. Now, this is not a UFO in the sense of a flying saucer, but a UFO in the kind of true meaning of the acronym. It was an unidentified flying object, and the video was shot by members of the UFO Club, which shows what appears to be an object or entity hovering above the mountains of Nuevo Leon. The object appears to move in parallel with the mountaintops in a straight line, and the Mexican press was quick to call this a witch. As the press moved in on the town and its inhabitants, they started to get reports of face-to-face encounters with these so-called witches. 2 reports that made the headlines were that of 2 police officers that had a close encounter with these beings, and the officers in question reported seeing 2 beings that resembled the stereotypical witch, or what most people think of as being a witch, with the cap and the pointy hat and the long fingernails and the broom. One officer reported that while on a routine check of the abandoned area, he encountered 2 of these entities floating around a cemetery that was just yards away, and the officer described them as being female and covered in what appeared to be plumage. A more terrifying encounter was actually reported by a second officer from a different district, but he reported being physically attacked by one of these beings, being visibly shaken in the video right after the encounter as he's being interviewed. And he claims that while on patrol in his vehicle, the entity fell from a tree onto the hood of his vehicle, and the officer describes the entity as having female traits. He also describes it as having large eyes, dark skin, and wearing what appears to be a cloak. He then claims that the entity placed its hand on the windshield, and after that point, he basically passed out with fear, and he only remembers waking up in his patrol car shortly afterwards and then calling for backup and medical assistance. But camera crews were actually there to capture the aftermath of that. But one of the interesting things I think you spoke about last week is if you go onto YouTube, you can actually see the clips of this incident and actually see these, what appear to be the outlines of witches actually floating across the mountainsides.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen the video footage. Yeah, I'd recommend to go to youtube.com and type in Mexican witches and look at the video footage of these things zipping around in the sky. I mean, the video footage almost looks fake to me. I mean, I don't know, but it's so intriguing that it's been reported by so many different, law enforcement officials and people in the know out there. It's not just, a couple of guys, liquored up on tequila for the night that are seeing strange things in the sky. It's been actual, everyday people and law enforcement officials as well.
Well, they must have actually seen something. I mean, it's due down to speculation what they actually saw, but these guys are physically shaken up. I mean, you can tell that they're terrified when they're being interviewed, and they've obviously seen something to be in that kind of state of hysteria. But as I say, if you actually see the videos, it's very difficult to put a rational explanation as to what's actually taking place there.
Interesting. Well, let's take our last break. For this hour, we'll come back and finish up with the stories we have for you with about another 12 minutes. And then make sure you stay tuned with us, folks, at the top of the 10 o'clock hour for hour 2 of the show. We're going to be here with R. Gary Patterson. We're going to be talking about the dark side, rock and roll's myths, legends, and curses, right here on your home for Paranormal Talk Radio. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. We're talking to our friend from across the pond, Mr. Adrian Lee, about international news. Adrian, we got about 12 minutes left on the show. What do you have to share with us now?
Yes, I don't know if you remember, but when about 4 weeks ago we discussed the case of the Frenchman that had died, and he'd been dead for a couple of hours, and they were about to take his organs out for transplant, and he actually came back to life.
Right.
Now, one of the interesting things for me, I wanted to do some more research on what death was and how you would go about classifying death. And interestingly, there was actually a study commissioned this week that looks into what really happens when we die. Reports of near-death experiences always sound pretty much the same, the idea of the white light and the replay of memories. But now scientists aim to do a study of what really happens to the brain and the consciousness when someone is on the verge of dying. I mean, I was wondering if that would be a scary thing for you, Dave, seeing your life played back to you. What do you think?
Wow. Yeah, I'm not even sure I liked it the first time around.
It'd be more scary if you saw someone else's life.
No, that would be okay.
Well, you think,
I would like to see Kate Beckinsale's life.
Yeah. You think, I don't remember bungee jumping in Brazil, and who was that blonde with the stubble?
Stop talking about my mom that way, Adrian. Anyway.
I love your mum, you can't say that. Moving swiftly on, contrary to popular perception, death is not a specific moment, said the leader of this study, Dr. Sam Parnia of the University of Southampton. It's a process that begins when the heart stops beating, the lungs stop working, and the brain ceases functioning. A medical condition termed cardiac arrest, which is from a biological viewpoint, is obviously synonymous with clinical death. Scientists have long struggled to define death and to determine when the process or the moment of death occurs. Now, though, most doctors consider death more of a process than an event. A person is thought to have died when he stops breathing, his heart stops beating, and his brain activity ceases.
I thought it was the moment he said, "I do."
Controversial. You going back to the replay of your life before your life?
Yes, I am, sir.
You need to snap out of that and move on. During a cardiac arrest, all three criteria of death are present. There follows a period of time when, from the last few seconds to an hour or more, in which emergency or medical efforts may be needed to restart the heart and the reversing of the dying process. But what people experience during this period of cardiac arrest proves a unique window of understanding what they're likely to experience actually during the dying process. And it says previous research suggests about 10 to 20% of people who live through cardiac arrest report lucid, well-structured thought processes, reasoning, memories, and sometimes detailed recall of events when they encounter death. And one of the things they're doing is actually in the operating theatres and in places where people might actually be in a process of dying, they're starting to put things like symbols on the ceiling that you can't see unless you're actually floating up there. And then if people claim to have had this experience where they're out of their body and they're looking down on themselves, they're then going to be quizzed on, well, what were the symbols that were around, in the operating theatre? And if they can then say to them what those symbols were, then that gives them firm evidence, if you like, that person's actually been out of the body and seen around them, and then they've got something to confirm that, which I thought was quite a nice little experiment.
Really? They're thinking it through that much, and have they had anybody come back and able to, share that part of it yet?
Well, this study was only commissioned this week, so in the next year or two they're going to have results for that. But this was just actually initially starting the study up and putting it in place at the University of Southampton, and then obviously during the course of this year when people are having these near-death experiences, they'll then be able to gather their data, and then obviously when that report comes out, I will then give you all the information on that. But I thought that was quite an impressive study, and I was amazed that we're now in a position where doctors are almost thinking that this is a state that people do get into, because so many people are reporting these events, that they're now looking at ways in which they can clarify this and actually have solid evidence that this exists.
Unbelievable. Well, that's great. Yeah, and we'd love to hear a follow-up on that when you have more.
Sure.
All right, next we're off to?
Yeah, this week in the Midlands, in the middle of England, a psychic investigator has been examining a spooky painting. It's a painting that no one wants, apparently. At least half a dozen people here and in America have also been spooked by this landscape painting, and they've got rid of it. The haunted painting is now back with the psychic investigator who's trying to discover more details about this mysterious image of a derelict castle. Local historian and medium Phil Solomon is penning a book about spooky happenings, and he's trying to find out more about the origins of this particular oil painting that he's now got in his possession. He said he originally actually owned this painting decades ago, and after a spell in America, by a coincidence, it had actually come back to him, and he's warned anyone of a nervous disposition not to stare or even look at the image. He said, I'm trying to find out who painted this picture and what exactly it's of, people also see literally dozens of ghostly figures coming out of the painting and skulls appearing in the clouds alongside other numerous visions. Phil said he actually bought the painting, but it was owned by a woman that he bought it from in a second-hand shop about 30 years ago, and she actually liked the painting, but it unnerved her and both her children, and insisted that it scared them, and she hung it on the wall for the first time, and that night it fell down, and then she hung it on the wall again, and the following night the painting was on the floor, and finally she got her husband to secure it with some screws, and then the following day they got up and the painting was still on the floor and the screws were out of the wall. So at that point they got rid of it, and the children were saying that they'd seen figures coming out of this ghostly tower that's actually in the painting. And then various other people have owned the painting and have instantly, within a couple of days, brought it back to the shop and said that they don't want it anymore. You know, they said they've been scared because they've seen unusual ghostly figures and lights coming on. So this guy's now got this painting back in his possession, and he's doing a study of it. And I think what I'm actually going to do is, if I put the website address of this particular painting onto the Darkness Radio website, viewers, listeners can actually view this painting and have a look for themselves. It's a landscape with a castle, a derelict castle and a tower in it. And apparently no one wants it, and it's ghostly.
Is there any way you could find this person that now is the curator of this painting? I'd love to talk to them on the show in the future here.
I could certainly do that for you, yep. I have his name, it's Phil, and he lives in Wolverhampton in the Midlands, so I'm sure I could get hold of him. He's actually writing a book about all of these incidents at the moment. His name's Phil Solomon, so it certainly wouldn't be a problem to get hold of him, and that might be quite a nice little interview we could set up there.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on there, and maybe he'd even be willing to allow the picture to be sold for charity at one of our events.
That's a distinct possibility. Yeah, I'll have a chat with him, and it'd be quite nice to get him on and interview him on that. I'm a bit of a fan of art, as you know, so I'd be quite interested to chat with him on that as well.
All right, let's go. We got about two and a half minutes left here, Adrian. Where are we going to go next?
Okay, I'm going to quickly squeeze in a couple of stories. There was more ghostly goings-on in a museum in Poole. There's a big castle in Dorset in England, and they set up some CCTV cameras in the shop there and all around the castle. And very bizarrely, on the CCTV, there's actually an image appeared that lasted a whole day of a man in a bowler hat, dressed in a black suit, actually standing in front of the monitor, or standing in front of the camera and appearing on the monitor for pretty much the whole of the day, and no one knows who he is. And it's almost like the Magritte painting, if you know the painting by Magritte,
right, with the
man in the bowler hat and the standing with his back to you. It looks very similar to that. But the bizarre thing was that when people in the shop actually walked into the space where this ghostly figure was standing, he would disappear, and then when the people walked on again, he came back. So again, I might put that website onto the Darkness Radio website, and people can actually have a look at that image.
Great. You'll be able to check it out by going to darknessradio.com and clicking on the news desk with Adrian. Adrian, we've got about 45 seconds left here. What else? What's your last story to throw to us?
I can do 45 seconds. See, the British pop singer Robbie Williams and his long-term American actress girlfriend, Ada Field, have actually split up this week, and this is quite relevant, I think, to what you've got coming up on the rest of the show. They've had a 14-month romance, but apparently she's dumped him because he's so obsessed with aliens and being on the internet every night and staring up at the skies that she says that he's neglecting her. So she's left him because she doesn't like the fact that she's not getting taken out to dinner and she's not getting any affection. So he's lost his girlfriend on the strength of being obsessed with aliens and being on the internet looking for UFOs.
You know, it's interesting, as I mentioned, I'm going to be on the episode of Paranormal State, which is a UFO hunt, and that takes place at the Gilliland Ranch in Washington. And Robbie Williams was there today before we were, checking the skies and seeing the crazy activity for himself. I believe somewhere online there's some video of it, and if I can find that video, I'll have it added. I'm looking in the room right now, and our great web technicians, Delia and Mike, already said that they have those pictures and stories up on the website right now for you, Adrian, so everybody that heard tonight's show can go check that out.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, Adrian. We'll look forward to speaking to you again next week with a whole new slew of stories.
A pleasure as always, sir.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning into the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. That's it for the first hour, folks. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with more, talking about rock and roll's myths, legends, and curses with author R. Gary Patterson right here on the talk home of Paranormal Talk Radio every Saturday and Sunday.